Hey, what's up everyone? Mitchell here from BitSubmit. Today we're going over 5 ways to get started on a new song because starting off can be the hardest part. Let's get right into it. My first tip is to start off with a melody. As we all know, every songwriter has experienced the torment of hearing a melody in your head and struggling to get that idea to fruition. I'm always nervous that the melody I'm hearing in my head is just recycled from something I've already heard. I think leaving chords out is a great way to help with composing in your head, especially if you don't have a dense knowledge of chordal harmony. Oftentimes I'll hear this really cool chord progression in my head that I would never play if I was sitting at my piano or playing my guitar. Something I think is really cool is when I've been working on a chorus melody for hours and hours, and then it suddenly shines light on itself that it should be a verse melody instead. Something I've experimented with is changing up the order of notes and completely reversing the phrase to get a whole new effect. Even just adjusting a note by a third or one scale tone will give a whole new sound and feel to the melody. I think a really underrated technique for starting a song with a melody is putting down your instruments and just walking around humming and singing your ideas. It'll really put things into perspective. So my second tip is to start off with progression. Chord progressions have to be one of the most common methods to start a new song. A writer like John Legend has the means to create any emotional response through his chords, unlike me sitting here trying to come up with something half as interesting. I think it's really important to be careful here though, because some of the best songs are done with the simplest chords. So most of the songs created in the 50s or 60s were almost all written over a 4-chord progression. Usually they began with a root major, followed by a 6 or 3 minor, then a 4 or 2 minor 7, and then it's hard to forget that pivotal 5 chord. These are great ways to support the vocal lines of the times, but eventually all these started to sound exactly the same, kind of like a lot of the pop progressions we have today. As we've all seen with that great Axis of Awesome video, the link will be in the description if you haven't, we realized that many songs can be written over the same progression. The key here though is to realize what works within these progressions and change or embellish them to create a sound that's more unique or more you. I like to try starting a song with a chord I wouldn't usually use. This forces a different style of melody than I'm used to. I also try using chordal patterns that have minimal chord movement. So a tip here is to try to use dynamics in creating something that may be really busy chordally into something that's more simple. The biggest secret to all these tips is whatever you're comfortable doing, switch that up and keep yourself guessing and coming up with new solutions. My third tip is to start off with a groove. Now, if you're confused by the term groove, I'm using it to describe the rhythmic pattern of the song that's present under the chords and melody, usually played by multiple instruments. Personally, I found this method more useful than any other ones to get me out of that writer's block. When I want to work on a groove that I can't actually play, I always start by either attempting to write out the pattern on a drum programmer or using a drum idea that I was listening to recently or really enjoy. It's totally fine to use another song as inspiration to start your new idea, especially since only melody and lyrical content are copyrightable. Taking this inspiration further and learning some new grooves will be massively helpful for your writing. I can't tell you how many times hearing a more foreign groove or beat has inspired me to write something that ended up being way more unique and interesting than what I'd normally come up with. For my fourth tip, I've got start with a form. One example of a form to start off with would be your classic intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, out. Simplifying the form makes it easier to work on each section individually and allows me as a songwriter to branch out and really trust my instincts. Once an understanding of form is established, and for many it's just automatic, you're able to break the rules and kind of branch out, being able to trust your more seasoned instincts. Again, the main point here is to try and change up the ways you write, and instead go with a method that you're not comfortable with. My fifth and final tip is my favorite tip: just wing it. This way of starting off a track really feels the most natural, and it allows for me to have the most original ideas. It's when I'm just jamming at the keys, throwing in some random drum grooves, tossing in unique and foreign samples, or just singing into the mic to start a track. I find that my muse will usually show up eventually, and then the more technical aspects of creating a track come out. The best part of this method is that you're not going into a session expecting anything. You're free to just be in the moment and express things that you're just feeling at that exact time and place. I feel like when you're in a session with someone and you're trying to come up with something, you're doing exactly that, using your brain power to try to come up with an idea. I mean, sometimes this works naturally, but sometimes it adds more stress to the session because everyone's trying so hard to come up with that great vocal hook or wicked chopped vocal melody, but that doesn't always happen. All right, guys, so hopefully these ideas are helpful and put you on the road to get started, continue a song that you already been working on, or able to just kill that pesky writer's block. And don't forget, if you hit up bitsubmit.net, you can post your tracks and have direct access to promotional networks without all the mess of figuring out how to contact them and stumbling around and searching through all their social platforms to try to find their email. You're able to automate your entire marketing process, so you're spending more time where it matters most, in the studio. There's no more wasting time searching the internet for promotions, and no more sending hundreds of emails to all these promoters that rarely respond because of their flooded inbox. See you next time, guys. Peace.